There is an Iroquois belief that the first people fell through a hole in the sky onto the back of a giant turtle. The Haida of the West Coast tell of a raven that released them from the clasp of a giant clam. The Blackfoot of the Plains say their creator molded them from mud in the middle of a world of water, but others believe they came from somewhere else. The Salish of the West Coast have passed down stories of a long trek across a great body of water.
A long time ago, the people were living in another country near a large lake where they were attacked by their enemies. Since they could not cross the water, they were in great danger of being destroyed. That night, one chief caused a cold wind to blow. Ice covered the lake, and at daybreak, the people crossed over the ice to the other side. Then the chief, whose guardian spirit was heat, called a hot wind down, and the ice melted and disappeared behind them, so that their enemies could not follow.
100,000 years ago, most of this continent was locked in the grip of an ice age. As the ice spread, the ocean levels sank, and whole new masses of land emerged. One of them was hundreds of miles wide, a great land bridge between Asia and America, the gateway to a new world. On one side of the bridge, tribes of people who had already migrated east across Asia. On the other side, an unknown continent. Between 15 and 20,000 years ago, the climate warmed and the glaciers started to melt. Through the barrier of ice, a crack opened up, a passage from the cold northern lands to open country farther south. Across the land bridge came grazing animals, like the caribou, in search of better pastures. And the hunters followed. No one knows who arrived in North America first. No one is certain if the land bridge was the only way to get here. But people came, and they were followed by others. They didn't know it was a different continent. They simply followed the food. Along the way, they peopled a new world. The sea levels rose with the runoff from the glaciers, and the land bridge was submerged. For the next 10,000 years, the new continent would continue to grow. The flow of people spread out to reach every corner. They first went south, founding great empires, the Inca, the Aztec, the Anasazi, then to the east as far as the Atlantic Ocean. As the generations passed and the earth warmed, their descendants set out on a final migration, north. The hunters became people of the caribou and the deer, people of the seal and the walrus. In a land scraped clean by the ice, these were the first people. By 7,000 years ago, bands of hunters had reached the shores of the Eastern Ocean, completing the vast migration across the continent. Their identities have been lost in the mists of time, but here, on the wind-swept coast of Labrador, they left evidence of who they were. This is a place of wonder, one of the oldest ceremonial grave sites in the world. More than 2,000 years before the Egyptians built their pyramids, long before the invention of the wheel in Mesopotamia, the mourners marched in a grim processional to mark the passing of a 12-year-old child. Little is known about who they were, only that they killed walrus up and down the coast, and that they chose this simple ocean overlook to be a landmark made sacred by death. Red ochre adorned the body's deerskin shroud, and spear points were arranged on the grave floor. And the body was left face down, with a boulder on its back, as if to keep it there. On the lonely coast of Labrador, they left a sign that speaks to the ages. In the face of death, the walrus hunters had affirmed that this was their place and that they would live on.